All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott coming at you with JavaScript, courtesy of Murox JavaScript 2nd edition. We're up to Chapter 9 in Section 2 of our text. There are 6 chapters in Section 2, so I'll got to do 9, 10, 11, and 12. Then we go on to Section 3. But this section is entitled How to Work with Arrays and Web Storage. We've done work with arrays already, but we will continue to add to the work we've done. And yes, I can almost guarantee that this project will have to be a two-parter. All right, so use arrays and applications, use an associative array, which we haven't looked at yet, but we will, and a multi-dimensional array, which is typically called an array of arrays. And then we get into something brand new that's called web storage in your application. Describe how an index is used to access the data that's stored in an array. Describe the length property of an array. Distinguish between a for loop and a for in statement. Describe array methods push, pop, shift, unshift, splice, sort, join, isArray, index of, map, filter, and reduce. Describe the split method for the string object. Distinguish between a regular array, which is numerically indexed, an associative array, and a multidimensional array, which again is typically referred to as an array of arrays. Distinguish between session storage and local storage. Describe these methods of the JavaScript local storage and session storage objects. Set item, get item, remove item, and clear. All right. So we learned how to create an array in an earlier chapter. All right. And there'll be plenty of examples in this chapter. Remember, an array can store one or more elements. The length of the array is the number of elements that are in the array. If you create an array and don't specify the length, the array doesn't contain anything. When you create an array with one or more elements without assigning values to them, each element is undefined. To refer to the elements in an array, you use an index, also called a subscript, which starts at 0. So the first item in here will be item 0, the next item will be item 1, etc. All right, so here's an example. Here are two arrays. This is a numeric array, so rates. So let's look at the example that's here, and I'm not going to put in regular code or anything, but I'm just going to show you it like this. So with this right here, rates sub 0, and that's how it's you say it, equal 14.95. Rates sub 1 equal 12.95. You don't use double quotes because these are numbers. Rates sub 2 equal 11.95, and rates sub 3 equal 9.95. All right? So this array that you see set up like this could have also been set up like this. You don't buy anything, it's actually more work, but we could have said rates, or I'm sorry, var rates equal bracket bracket. We could have done that. So these lines together collectively, these 5 lines do the same thing as that one does. Now you should be able to do the same kind of thing down here. So again, we could have said, in fact, let's just put it right here. We could have said var names equal bracket bracket, and then said names sub 0. And here we do need single or double quotes because they're strings. Names 1 equal Charles. And finally, sorry about that, my last presentation. All right. And then finally, names, and it's usually said sub, short for subscript, so sub 2 equals Ada. So again, I could have done this in lieu of doing this. I'm going to leave that there just for a second because I want you to at least hopefully start to understand that there's always more than one way of doing the same operation. So there are plenty of examples of that on page 259. So how do you add and delete elements? So what if I wanted to add something new to the array? Let's go back to this. I'm going to grab these two things. All right, I'm going to grab these, and I'm going to go back to, not the code, but this little snippet here that I'm writing. And I'm just going to put in these dashes. So let's pretend that we did set up our arrays like this, okay? If I want to add a new item to the array, all right, if I want to add a new item to the array, I should be able to just come in and do this. Rates, bracket, bracket, equal, let's say we've got a new hire rate, and it's $19.95. And if we do that, our array will now be $14.95, $12.95, $9.95, I'm sorry, $14.95, $12.95, $11.95, $9.95, and $19.95. If I want to add another name, let's put me in there. There you go. So now, after I do this, now the names array will be Grace, Charles, Ada, Jeff. Now, I know that's element 0, element 1, element 2, element 3, so I can put a 4 in there if I want. That's element 1, or is element 0, element 1, element 2. What if I put a 4 in here? The system's not going to complain, but now what we're going to have is names is going to look like this. It'll have Grace, then it'll have Charles, then it'll have Ada, then it'll have undefined, and then it'll have Jeff. So I can do that if I want to. All right. So one way to add an element to the end of the array is to use the length property. And that's even an easier way. Okay, typically that's how you'll do it. I'll say rates.length. Now think about this. How many elements are in here? That's element 0, element 1, element 2, and element 3. That's not what I asked. How many elements are in this right here? There is 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. And they are numbered 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if I say rates bracket bracket dot length like this, and I think I've got to say rates, and then in here I've got to say rates dot length. That's being about as safe as I can be right there. So that'll say the fourth element 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 will be that one. So that's really the way you should do it. So this would be names.length. All right, and you do that just because it's the right way of doing things. All right, then you don't get gaps like this. If you want a gap like that, you can do it, but typically you don't. If you add an element at a specific index that isn't one in sequence, and that's what I showed you, undefined elements are added to the array. That's when I added Jeff, and I had a blank element in there. There's a delete that you can use. So I can come in here and say, delete names sub 1, and that will remove Charles from the array. Remember, 0, 1, 2, and that'll now be 3. So now the array will be Grace, Ada, and Jeff. If you want to remove all of the elements from the array, you can set the array length property to 0. All right? So I could say, if I wanted to remove everything from the names array, I could say names.length equal 0. That removes everything. So that's as though my array now equals this. You can create a sparse array, which is a large array which has just a few elements in it. Talk about that maybe a little later, I don't know. You can add methods to an array using the methods of the array object. Now, that's what I wanted to show you. I want to come here and come out here, and I want to type in JavaScript array methods. All right, and it shows some of them here, But notice it'll push me off to the W3 schools, and here are the array methods. Boom, 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 pop, push, shift. There are a lot of them. I don't know what just happened there, but so as I start to peruse my way down, you can see all the different stuff you can do with arrays. Well, that was fine, but I want a little better reference than that. So here's array. So I can go to array under my mozilla.org, developer.mozilla.org, which is the Mozilla Developer Network. And it'll show me how to create an array, loop through an array, end an array, array syntax. Somewhere in here, I'm sure. There we go. It'll start telling me the methods. So be prepared. There are quite a few of them. All right. How to use loops to work with arrays? Well, let's jump back in and actually write some code then. That's fine. So chapter 9 here, I don't want to go into that task list. That's the wrong one. So I want to go here, and let's go from what we just did. We did that thing that was called control statements. I can change the name, but so that's fine. I'll copy that here, and I'm going to change the name of that from control statements to arrays, which means I'll change the name of that one from control statements to arrays, which I spelled wrong. All right, and I'll right mouse click on this and just choose arrays. So now that file is done, but it's much easier to run by leaving it open. So, all right, so this is my arrays. I don't need any of this stuff. This was from the last chapter. I saved all that stuff in my last chapter. So let's put an array, okay? So let's ask the user. In fact, let's have this done for us. All right. Let's see. Let's generate, we'll start by creating an array. Var numbers equals bracket, bracket. All right, so that will create an array called numbers. All right, so that's the first thing we're going to do. Then fill the array with 25 random numbers between 1 and 100. Okay? Give us a chance to use that random that we used before. If you don't remember it, okay, JavaScript, random number between 1 and 100. Okay? Let's way down here. I'm going to just grab their example. All right, so for let's use LCV. LCV equals 0, our loop control variable. LCV less than 25. LCV plus plus. All right, numbers sub I equals this. That should give us a random number between 1 and 100. All right, now that I filled the numbers, all right, now I'm going to print out the contents of the array. I'm going to do this a little different. Instead of going from 1 to 25, I'm only going to go to 24. Okay? And I'm going to create another variable right here. I'm going to say var LCV2, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. Since I set it equal out here to 0, I don't need it in here, so I can just remove that. All right, so this will print out the first 24. Okay? So I want to hear document.write subscript, I'll say numbers plus LCV2, it's got to be a 2 there and there. So plus LCV2 plus equals, and then my number, plus numbers sub I, or LCV2. In fact, let's make this I, so I have plenty of room. I, and I. Okay. And then when I get done with each one of these, I want to append onto the end of that a comma and a blank space. All right? And that's good. It should work. Should work. We'll find out. Numbers are, well, it should have worked, but it didn't, so let's check. Oh, that should have been number sub LCV. Let's just make this, we'll leave it LCV. So that's LCV. That'll fix that. Hopefully that fixed everything. Let's check. And when we print these out, again, we need our old friend, the BR tag. Okay? All right. That looks a lot better. So there's our numbers. But notice it only goes from 0 to 23. I don't have my last one. I purposely did it that way. All right? Why? Well, I don't want a comma after the last one. So instead of printing to the end, I printed to 1 from the end. Now I can say just this. Document.write numbers sub I. Without the comma. So let's see what this does. So there's my last one without a comma there. All right? Now, I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave that like this, but I'm going to comment out this, and I'm going to comment out this. You'll see why, literally, in just a second. All right. Now, what I want to do is I don't want a BR tag in there. Why? You're going to see right now. I don't even need to say numbers. I just want to print out the number. All right, so I want to print out the number followed by a comma. But again, when I do my last one, and I print that one out, okay, I don't want the comma after it. Now let's see what it looks like. I've generated 25 random numbers, and there they are, without a comma after the last one. So that showed you how to use a for loop to iterate or work your way through an array. All right? I can also, if I don't want to use a for loop, I can use what's called a for in loop. So let's go back to our same example. And now I'm going to take this one. The for in loop is designed that if I'm just going to print something out, I'm not going to change it. All right? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to comment out this line, and I'm going to say for var I in numbers, which means I don't need this anymore. All right. But I think I'm going to have a problem with this last one, but we'll see. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Printed the last one twice. See that? Why is that? Because it's smart enough in here that I don't need to do that comma and the other stuff. All right. So now I should be able to comment out that line. and it should still work. Now I've got a comma on the end though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 2, 3. Good news is I've got my numbers. The bad news is the way that I've written it, I'm going to have a comma at the end. Well, then what I can do, let's comment this out, and let's put in those BRs back again. Let's do it that way. All right, so I'm going to grab this one, and forget about the commas between them. In fact, instead of a comma, let's put a tab between each one. See if that works. All right, since I've got the BRs, I actually didn't even need the tabs. All right, but it works just fine without the commas. And I can get rid of that tab because that's not doing a flaming thing. All right, and I can there it is. And every time I run this, I should be getting different numbers in here, because it's random number generation. All right, so that's a for in. So the for in statement can use a for in loop that accesses the elements in the array that are specifically assigned. All right. Now, in your book, and like I said, I'm only going to go for about 10 or 15 more minutes. So this will be breaking at around 35 minutes. I've got an appointment that I've got to go to. But if we bring this up, in the book, they start talking about in here. Come on, I'm getting there. There's sum and average, but I did that for you in an earlier program. Just did the for in. Here are some of the methods of an array object. Okay? Push and pop are used to add elements elements to and remove elements from the end of the array. Unshift and shift are used to add and remove elements from the beginning of the array. Reverse will reverse the order of the array. Sort will sort the array. Splice will remove part of the array. And there's different ways that you can do splice. Concat will allow you to combine two arrays together. And I think join does the same thing. You can use toString on here. So examples of the array methods, much better than the goofy explanation I just gave you. Remember how I added that before? I added that name. I could have done it like this, names.push. If I want the last one, I can use names.pop. If I want to remove the last one. So when I say names.push, Alan Linus, now it's Grace, Charles, Ada, Alan, and Linus. When I say pop, it removes the last name, which is Linus. So it's now Grace, Charles, Ada, and Alan. Whereas push and pop, remove from the end. Unshift and shift, remove them from the beginning. So this, if I did an unshift, I don't know why you'd do it like that, but okay. Splice allows you, splice is kind of like, if you imagine a slice, it's kind of like cutting off something and just taking a piece of it as an example. Not a great example, but just so you know. All right? All right. Again, there are plenty of examples in here. Please take a look between what's here and using the URLs that I gave you. You know, going out to the Mozilla Developer Network or to W3 Schools. All right. Besides the array methods we just looked at, the ECMA script 5 specification provides more array methods. There's isArray, which checks whether the object passed to it is an array. If it is, it returns true. If it's not, it returns false. There is indexOf, which returns the first index at which whatever it is you're looking for is found, or -1 if it's not found. Last index, all right, this basically will tell it to search, I think, from the beginning, and this This will find the first one, that will find the last one. There are other ones here. The for each accepts a function executed once for each element. The every accepts a function that tests each element in the array to see if it meets a condition. Returns true if all the elements pass and false otherwise. Sum does the same thing, but sum returns true if at least one passes your test and false otherwise. Map accepts a new function and returns a new array containing the results of the function call. Filter accepts a function and returns in a new array containing the elements that meet the required specified condition. Reduce accepts a function that returns all of the elements reduced to one value. And reduce right accepts a function and returns all the elements reduced to one value processed but in descending order. So these functions, some of them can have up to 4 parameters. All right, and they give you some examples right here. The methods that accept a function also accept an optional second parameter. All right, and all these are in the shim.js file, so they'll work with older browsers if you include the file. There are examples then shown of some of these on pages 272 and 273. Other things that you should know as far as working with an array. All right. Starting on page 275, and really right here, okay. We have the split method of the string object. The split method can be used to divide a string into multiple substrings based on a separator character. So if I had a string that, for example, let's just say I had a string that had in it the members of my family. So Jeff, Sandy, Taylor, Mackenzie, and Chloe. So if I had a string that was like that, the separator would be the comma. All right, so if I use split and I put in here the separator, in fact, I can even put in this. And so if I say var name string equals that, all right, then I want to say, for example, names equal the name string dot split, and I want to split it on comma space. All right. If I do all that, then what that should do is that should create really an array for me where names 0 is equal to Jeff, names 1 is going to be equal to Sandy, names 2 will be equal to Taylor, names 3 will be equal to Mackenzie, finally names 4 will be equal to Chloe. And I can even do, they show this right here, I can do an alert on names, names dot length, and it will come back and say 5, because there's 5 people in the array. All right, so those are examples of how you can use and split a string if you need to do that or want to do that. It's interesting because there's other software, for example PHP, which is a server-side package. When you split that like that, you can use functions that are called explode and implode, okay? You can run into goofy problems if you don't have a separator, but the split method is used to convert the components of a string into array elements. If the string doesn't include a separator, the entire string is returned as the first element in a one-element array. if the separator that's specified is an empty string, each character becomes an array element. All right? And the last thing that I want to tell you, let's see if I have time to do this. No. I'm going to pick it up on page 276, talking about associative arrays. We don't really have much left in the chapter, probably about 14 or 15 pages, but this is a good place to stop. So I will pick it up in that part of chapter 9. All right, I'm not going to save.